Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we need to talk about splites. I know I've done a couple videos over the week, did a little bit of a basic combo, kind of looking at some of what the stuff can do, especially Splash with some of the generic like level 2 packages in the game. But today we're looking at an actual like early deck profile. I literally think this profile is pretty sweet. This deck's really sweet. It's the potential here is insane, and the main basis of this video is like, I really truly believe this deck is tier 1, like out the gate. This deck is insane. We'll talk about a bunch of the stuff it has going for it and just go through this general list. I have a couple spicy things here that might be a little different from other profiles, but for the most part, you have to play the good engines, which we are doing here, and we'll talk about those as we go. So let's start off by just going through the list here. Starting off, we've got our Splight stuff, of course, and we're keeping this pretty concise. I wasn't sure about this, but honestly, you don't need to go crazy here. So triple Splight Blue, triple Splight Jet. These are your best starters/extenders for the Splites. If you control a level or a rank 2, they just jump out of the hand. And the blue searches you a monster, which is usually Jet, and then Jet searches you a spell or trap, which is always starter. They don't really have another good spell or trap, but even if you already have a starter in the hand, you still want to go through Jet, because if you use the first starter to extend on your first turn, and then you set the other one because it's a quick play, and you use it to summon out either Carrot or Red, which, speaking of which, if you have a level 2 or link 2 for these two, they can jump out of the hand. And then they both contribute a rank, link, or level 2 monster aside from themselves to Red negate a monster effect and Carrot negate a spell and trap effect. So really cool. They are extenders that also double as negation. And at first I was like, yo, Red's insane. You definitely play 3 red, drop it on the field as early as possible, and make yourself hand trap proof. Well, the deck already beats hand traps like really easily, and the deck already inherently doesn't care about nib at all. So this isn't really the biggest problem, and so you just want to play 1 and 1 just to get access to them, because all these other Splight cards are just better, and you'd rather be seeing like these other engine cards instead, and then get to these when you need to. That's the general idea, but these are both still really insane. Then you have Starter. He summons a Splight monster straight from the deck. It is important to note the only 2 cards that have the restriction in this archetype are Starter. When you use it, it locks you into level, rank, and link 2 monsters for the rest of the turn. You can't summon anything else. Not a huge deal, FYI. And then you have Splight, Gigantic Splight. This is your rank 2. He summons any level 2 monster from the entire deck, or from the entire game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Straight from the deck. And then he gets that same lock on you. But that's so insane. We'll talk about the best options to summon in a sec. But yeah, so Starter's insane. Just quick effect, summon any Splight from deck. Doesn't negate them or anything. So summon Blue. Blue search Jet. Summon Jet. Jet search a second Starter. And you've already got 2 level 2s on the field. Like, super easy. This was just so crazy. So very small engine, but it's very easy to get access to. Going into our other engines, I think one of the better ones, one of the best ones, there's 2 really good ones to talk about here, Frogs and the Live Twins. The Live Twins are insane because of 2 things. One, they're both, either one that you draw, are 1 card rank 2s to get you into Splight Gigantic, or the entire like Live Twin line, aside from going into Trouble Sunny, which even before that, this deck was considered like an okay control deck, only uses link 2. So even if you're under a restriction, even if you started with, Starter or something, and maybe you're under the lock, all the Live Twins do is like make link 2s. And then maybe on the next turn you worry about Trouble Sunny, but for the most part, you can just rock completely in there. So they don't have a restriction until you use one of their link 2 effects, which locks you into Fiends for the extra deck for the rest of the turn, but that's usually the last thing you're doing for your end board if you're sequencing everything correctly. So it's not a big deal. From there, you move to the Frog stuff. Insane. This may look weird to people. I'm telling you guys, do not play too big of a Frog package. When you look at the deck right now, you have a lot of cards that count as your normal summon. If you draw any of the 5 Frog cards, they essentially become your normal summon unless you see specifically swap with another of the waters. And unfortunately, there's not a great amount of other water cards you can even afford to play in this deck. Like, there's not a lot of good synergy with like other level 2 water stuff. Except for like maybe Deep Sea Diva. Maybe that's something you can explore to like increase Swap's ability to like extend like crazy. But if you see Deep Sea Diva, you probably want to normal summon it, not pitch it for Swap. So yeah, they become your normal summon, but they're not the ideal normal summon. Like, let's just be honest, the live twins are your best normal summons. These are more like engine pieces. They can be a pseudo normal summon. It's not bad if you see one of these cards, even if it's a Ronin or dupe, with like a handful of Splight cards. That absolutely can work, because there are 1-card combos with the live twins and starter, and then everything else is just like a 2-card combo. Like any Splight plus anything, like any way into the rank too, essentially is like a 2-card combo. And depending on which 2 you open, it gets bigger and better. And so I wanted to minimize the frog engine. You don't want to go too crazy here. I just wanted like the good amount of swaps. The dupe is just a summon from the deck off of the toad, and then you just need the 1 Rodent. If our opponent is going to waste a DD Crow on this, that is fine. That does not end our turn at all. That's absolutely okay. And because I've seen people that were like, okay, play 2 Ronin, play 2 or 3 dupe, and you just play like essentially a full frog suite. And I'm like, no, you're going to brick on these. You're just going to draw too many. You're going to draw dupe, Ronin with 3 hand traps, and you're just going to lose the duel outright. In those situations versus like a good deck. And so I want to minimize this, but just enough that we can make double toad fairly easily. All right, next up, oh, by the way, this is your main target to summon off of Gigantic. You summon swap. If you have a normal summon, you can just bounce swap to hand, normal summon him again. That gets you more than enough material to get going for toad. Then you get to the hand traps. This is generic stuff. Triple Ash, double Ogre, double Lancia, triple Gamma. I will say this. I like the hand trap lineups, whatever. Almost every time you do a non current format like deck profile, like we don't know what's going to be good in 4 months when this set comes out. We don't know if Ogre is still going to be good, if the adventure stuff's still going to be running rampant. So the hand trap lineup will change. The one thing I do want to highlight here, though, is the Gamma package. I do think this is pretty sweet because, one, if you Gamma on your turn, going first, you get a level 2 and a level 6. Now, you could mess around with that and make a Link 2, or like you could use the driver to make a Link 2, and maybe use the Gamma to make a rank 2 because he is level 2, which is really sweet. And I'm also messing around with Emergency Teleport in here. Has 2 main uses. The first one is just getting an extra level 2 on the field with the Gamma, or you can summon Ghost Ogre on the opponent's turn for an extra interruption. Pretty cool, not once per turn. I really like this because one thing that this deck can absolutely lose to is if your normal summon gets removed from the field before you're able to extend with anything, you can just lose. The only ways you really beat your normal summon getting removed from the field is opening starter and not using it out the gate. Opening Swap Frog with one of your other 4 water targets, so that's kind of specific. You can't really rely on that. And aside from that, you literally didn't have a way to like beat your normal summon getting removed. And I have Monster Reborn here, spoiler alert, but that's another way. Normal summon a, Kiss a Killer Lila gets removed, but you have Splights in hand. So all you need to do is reborn it. That opens up the Splights. That's the idea. But E-Telly is another way. It's just another option that gives us a way to not lose to getting our normal summon removed before extension. So I wanted to focus on that. Helps you just play through interruption too. Good extender. Droplet. I like the idea of Droplet just because of the live twins, the whole interaction of if you go normal summon Lila or Kiss a Kill and they get Veilered or Impermed or a non like destruction negation, you can just like send one to summon the other, and then the other will be able to trigger because you don't have the first one on the field anymore, and it'll summon another one. So either way you end up with 2 and you played through a negation. Cool interaction. One Called by the Grave. Certain hand traps are going to be annoying if your hand is slightly weaker, so Called is great. Harpy's Feather Duster, just like the idea of having at least one main deck out to Mystic Mine. This is a very monster-centric deck. This isn't a deck that's like making interruptions by searching back row that you set. There's none of that. It's all like monster negation and interruptions on field, and so I wanted to have something to counter stuff like Mystic Mine or Floodgates or something. And then Monster Reborn. This one's cool. I mean, it's just like if all our play is normal summon on level 2 to like open up the Splights in hand and it gets removed, Monster Reborn it. And then once you get enough stuff set up, like we're legitimately summoning Toad, we're legitimately making the Link 2, you're just reborning those, and then those just get you into such a powerful Monster Reborn at that point. So I like that idea a lot. So that's it for the main deck. Moving into the extra, let's move this up real quick. 2 Gigantic Splight. Don't need to explain this guy. He summons a level 2 from deck. Realistically, it's almost always Frog unless swap, unless you have access to him already, then you might be summoning something like blue, because you go blue, blue search jet, jet search starter, starter summon red, and you just got 3 bodies on field off of just that. It's insane. Not summoning live twins because they need to be the only monsters on field to trigger. Yeah, that's pretty self-explanatory. Double Toad, I'm not even sure Double Toad is necessary, because the coolest thing about this is because we're legitimately summoning Toad, 1, we're getting the dupe on the opponent's standby phase, but 2, once you use the Toad negate on our opponent's turn, there's a very crazy interaction where you are negating an opponent's card, sending Toad, Toad is going to trigger to get you another water back to hand, but you're not going to put Toad in the extra, because then if our opponent has a monster on field, Spright Elf, this guy up here, has a quick effect to reborn any link or rank 2 monster in the entire game, as long as they just have a monster on the field. It's absolutely insane. It's absolutely broken, and we definitely want to take advantage of that, because Toad is also not a once per turn on negation. It's a soft once per turn, I think. Yeah. So if it leaves the field, comes back, another negate. Sky Cavalry Centauria, this just facilitates a Zeus. Keep in mind, we do have the restriction, so if you use a gigantic Splight or your starter, you won't be able to go into Downer or Zeus, but for those duels, like, you do need to be able to go second. This deck definitely thrives going first. Going second, though, it's not bad, but stuff like this gives us a little leg up, another option to be able to clear through boards. Then there's Splight Elf. Have to play this card. This is, in my opinion, like the best card in the deck. You may disagree. Feel free to disagree. Like, maybe Gigantic Splight has an argument just because it can pull stuff like swap straight out of the deck and just get you into free Toads on Toads. But Elf is just insane because he doesn't even have a restriction. He's literally just once per turn reborn a level 2 engrave, or if your opponent controls a monster, a rank 2 or link 2. So insane. That is such a crazy effect. So I don't know what to say. Like, the fact that this card does this and it's a quick effect, so on your turn as a combo piece, extend by getting another body on field. And on your opponent's turn, get another interruption back or follow up, like Reborn Blue, Blue Search Jet. And now you just already have a Jet and you got the extra body on field for next turn. Very crazy. In this build, I'm playing Lambda just because of the Psy-Frame stuff. You could potentially make this in a turn where you like E-Tellate out Gamma and just let the Gamma fizzle on the end of the turn and banish off of the teleport, and that would trigger your Lambda to get you just another Gamma that's immediately live. So pretty cool interaction for sure. Then you have, it's also a bigger body. As far as the Link 2s go, this is the biggest, 14, 1100, 1100. This is the biggest body you can make out of that. And that is one thing that I do have a concern about. We'll talk about that a little more at the end. 2 Kiss and Kill, 2 Lilla, and the Trouble Sunny. You're usually just using these turn 1 just to get a draw, and then hopefully set up a Reborn for Lilla on the opponent's turn for a pop, because one thing I don't love is that a lot of the deck's interruption is a red negation, a carrot negation, hand traps, which are like cool, variable, and then aside from that, it's Toad, negation. So we don't have a lot of just like quick removal, which I feel like really pairs well with negation, and so I like the idea of being able to set that up. Trouble Sunny, you're almost never using this turn 1 unless you literally just open live twin stuff with no Splight stuff. But it's there and it's nice. It's another big body, another like win condition, kind of like Zeus that you can make use of on later turns. Once you already have a lot of resources on the field, it's pretty cool. But yeah, then there's a couple things in the extra or in the side that's like mentionable. Deck doesn't have a lot of removal, so like Unicorn or Phoenix and Cerberus still link 2s. Geonator transfers are technically removal. IP's interesting. I felt like there might have been a way to make use of IP. Still might be. Not sure yet. A couple rank 2s that are interesting. The Mannequin Cat specifically to me. This is kind of like Sky Cavalry, but it negates something. This lets you add back from hand, but it's a 1-for-1. It's not even a +1. Tactics, pretty cool. Another like this deck wants to bait your opponent's weaker hand traps, and it beats them really easily. So like Tactics getting draws, ripping cards out of the hand, stealing stuff. Pretty nasty. And Kitten. I keep talking about Kitten. Like I mentioned, aside from like literally the pop from the evil twin Lilla, the deck does not have like active, like proactive removal. I guess Sky Cavalry Centauria, but like not super ideal. So playing something like Kitten would mean we'd be able to like Gigantic Splight it out, bounce a card, and it's only once while it's on the field, so you could link it off, reborn it with Elf, and then bounce another card. So I think something like this, maybe like a spicy one of, or maybe a side deck option for like certain matchups where like you have to have proactive removal, but I don't know. Just something to keep in mind. All in all, this deck is crazy. It is going to be tier 1 immediately. I promise you. By the way, I didn't even mention, once you resolve Gigantic Splight, he locks both players out of summoning anything that's not a link level or rank 2. So your opponent cannot Nibiru you. Red also makes you Nibiru proof. So the deck is just like inherently anti-Nibiru proof, where a deck like this is normally like losing to Nibiru. Like that's the kind of card that just beats this kind of deck. And but because they have that, they just made a deck that's like all those other decks that do the same similar things, except this one just inherently doesn't lose to Nib. It's absolutely insane. This deck will be tier 1 out the gate. It's consistent. You can still play, like, as you can see, potentially even like 15 hand traps. Like, you could swap Droplet for hand trap. You could swap these 4 cards for hand traps, right? But I have an extender here to mess around. But it's consistent. It's powerful. It's resilient, beating a lot of different hand traps, and you can also fit in a ton of hand traps yourself so that you don't automatically lose to another combo deck going second. Absolutely insane. I highly recommend you check it out and theorize with this deck. There's probably some other stuff that we haven't found yet that definitely works in the deck and takes it to another level. But I still think it's tier 1 out the gate. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching as always. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.